Today's video is going to be a first impression on none other than the Tati Beauty Blendiful. Now, let me be honest, I had absolutely no intention of actually purchasing this product. When this was launched, I was, like I think a lot of people, kind of disappointed. I really wanted like a skincare product or a primer or I don't know, something a little bit more makeup based versus a tool. And not only was I a little bit disappointed that it was a tool, but I also was disappointed that the tool wasn't even like a sponge or a brush. It was what looked like a glorified cotton round. Do have a couple cotton rounds in my collection and I do use them from time to time to press in powder to set my face, but more often than not, I'm just using a fluffy powder brush. So being that a powder puff is not even something that I use on a daily basis, I was even more disappointed that that's what she came out with. Now, since the launch, lots of videos, including Tati's video, has come out that has shown how to use this tool, shown that you can use it not just to set your face with powder, but also with cream and liquid products, which is very intriguing to me. And I've just seen more positive reviews than negative. Actually, I don't think I've seen any negative reviews. The only negative thing I have seen about this product is that there have been some cases where when they are washing this product, it has ripped or the seams has ripped and they've had to reach out to Tati Beauty customer service and get a new one sent to them. So we are going to wash this when we're done using it today and we'll see how it holds up. And of course, I'll keep you guys updated, but I am excited to use this. So again, this is the Tati Beauty Blendiful. This is the packaging it comes in, which I believe is recyclable material, which is really nice. And let's open it. I feel kind of silly doing this because I know you guys have seen all of these videos probably before, but I'm hoping that you want to hear my take on it as well. So you have the baby one, which I don't know if I'll get any use out of this, to be honest. I've heard that from other people and I tend to agree. It's for touch-ups, but I just don't think I'll probably use it. So we'll see. I don't want to give judgment too soon, but this is what I bought it for. And this is the actual full size, like normal size Blendiful. It's pretty soft. It's not as soft as I thought it was going to be. It just feels kind of like there's like a little foam in it. I don't know. I heard everybody saying like, oh my God, it's so soft. And it's like, it's soft, but I'm not crying about it. What I have seen a lot of people do, including Tati, is use one side for creams and then to turn this inside out and use this side or the other side for powders. So that's what we're gonna do. I already have moisturizer on and I don't typically prime my skin, but I have been trying out just like twice this e.l.f. Luminous Putty Primer, and I do want to use it today with this product and see how it works. Now, as I'm putting this on, I will let you know that if you haven't seen any of my videos, I'm a very beauty blender person, or beauty sponge of some kind. It was very strange today to not like go wash a beauty blender, go get my beauty blender damp and ready for makeup. If this works out for cream products, I mean, this would be so convenient just in the fact that you don't have to get your beauty blender wet every morning. Like you could just have this ready to go. Because sometimes you sit down, you go to do your makeup, and then you realize, oh, I didn't wash the beauty blender, I didn't get it wet, let me get up again. And that's not a big problem, but it is kind of inconvenient. Okay, so when I have applied this primer the past couple times I've used it, I've just used my fingers. And I will say that using this has left it so much smoother all over my skin. Like not just smoother, but so much more of an even application versus my fingers kind of like clung to it and it didn't spread as evenly. So far, so good. For foundation, you guys probably know, I'm going to be using the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Glow Foundation. And I'm gonna squeeze some on the back of my hand. One thing that I have heard as a benefit from this product, from the Tati Blendiful, is that not as much product gets soaked up into it as it would a beauty blender. So I'm excited to see how much further my foundation goes. Hopefully it does go further than usual. So I'm just gonna pick up some. This is so weird. And I'm just going to bounce it because that's what I would do. I know that you can kind of like wipe it as well. So far, so good. Feels very like good in my hand too. Like it feels like a good size, and I have kind of small hands. It doesn't feel like, oh, it's slipping out. I'm kind of like gripping it like this. Okay, so that is the foundation on. I do still have quite a bit left. I'm kind of like, what am I gonna do with this now? I hate to say this. I do feel like it's sitting on top of my skin a lot more than when I use a beauty sponge. I don't know if you guys can tell. It is not like sunk into my skin. Especially you can see on my forehead, like it is just sitting on the surface of my skin. My nose, it's sitting on the surface. Like I'm very tempted, like I wanna go get this wet and sink in my foundation because that does not look good. Like it's possible that I used too much foundation. I don't know, I still had a lot left over. Okay, take two. As you can tell, I just removed all of that foundation. I want to try this again because I'm wondering if maybe it was the primer that was effing everything up. Like my foundation just was not sinking into my skin. And I don't know, I have used that primer before with this foundation and it didn't look like that. But I also hadn't used as much of the primer. Like maybe I used too much. Using the primer with this tool, maybe I used, like I said, too much primer. Like I don't know, but I do want to try this again. I'm gonna use even less foundation. I just don't want to use this one time on camera and be like, it sucked, I hated it, like immediately. I want to at least give it another fair try and see how it goes. I could apply this right now and be like, yeah, I hate it. But at least I'm giving it another try. I'm actually going to turn and use like this corner that's clean, that has no primer on it or anything, and let's see how that goes. Like I said, I'm gonna try to use even less foundation because I don't want that to be the reason that it was looking absolutely horrible. Okay, foundation is on again, and I'm not really sure how I feel. I do know that that did go on better. I used less foundation and I used a clean side. PS don't think this primer is for me. I'm gonna try it again like tomorrow or something with a beauty blender, but I just am not having good luck with it. So this foundation application looks already way better. Here's the thing. I do feel like I had to work with my foundation more than I do when I use a beauty blender. Like a beauty blender and this foundation that I've been using for months that I know works, I just bounce it on, I apply it, it's on, it looks pretty dang flawless. This, especially like around this area, I had to like very gently pat on my skin to try to get it to look seamless, which is not okay with me. Like if I have one tool that works flawlessly every time and then I have another tool that I have to really like mess with, I'm not down with that. Like that is going to bother me. Not to say that like I'm writing this off completely right now, like I hate it, but I did notice that I had to mess with this a little bit more. That said, like my cheeks and this part of my forehead looks pretty smooth. It looks pretty flawless. It looks about the same as when I use a beauty blender. It definitely doesn't look better, I'll say that. It looks the same. I did have to use less foundation, which is definitely a plus as far as not wasting products go. And that is definitely something that I would put in the pro category. Now I'm gonna do my brows off camera and I'll come back and we'll do concealer. Okay, brows are on. Let's move on to concealer and see how this goes. Using my favorite concealer, this is from Milani. This is the Conceal and Perfect concealer in the shade 110. And I'm going to use another clean little corner, and I'm gonna fold it like this because I need it to be pretty small to get in here. I will say, I have noticed, I mean, this is, see, like I just have to pull off a little piece of fuzz. Granted, you guys saw me take this out of the packaging and not wash it and then use it, which some of you guys may think of is gross, but I have noticed some like little gray fuzzies coming off, not a ton, a little bit here and there that I've had to take tweezers and remove, which is kind of annoying. I don't know if it'll always do that. So that went on pretty well, about the same as the Beauty Blender. I don't know if it sunk into my skin as well. I mean, it looks pretty good. I shouldn't speculate. It looks pretty good. I just noticed that it is a little bit like if I go over the same spot too many times, it starts to pick up the concealer or foundation or whatever, versus if I do it with the sponge, I don't notice that much. So I don't know. The final result looks pretty good. So before we go on to powder and setting the face, I want to use this same side and go in with a cream bronzer. This is the mini one from Milk Makeup in the shade Baked. Now, typically for this, I use a brush. I do not use my sponge, but for this, I'm going to turn it into like what Tati called a taco. And I'm going to just go ahead and start pressing this in and see how well it blends. Okay, pretty nicely actually. I mean, this is a very blendable product anyways, but that did work pretty nicely. Okay, that worked pretty well. I am relatively impressed with that. Everything looks pretty smooth and blended out, so I'm happy. So now let's try to go back in and blot out any creases that we have under here so that we can set with powder. One thing that I'm noticing is when you try to bend this to use one of the corners, I'm getting the seam of this, which is pretty scratchy, and it's like poking me. I mean, it's not like, ow, it's hurting so bad, but it's definitely not as soft because that seam is there. And I don't know a way around that because you really want to use the corners. Like that's what's so innovative about this versus this, is this has no real scratchy seam, but it's also very round. And I mean, theoretically, I could just curl this up, but having the corners is pretty convenient compared to that. So another thing just to note. So now I'm gonna turn this over and use the clean side for powder. Again, bending it. I'm using the Maybelline Fit Me powder. Okay, so I did a little bit of baking, which is what I usually do under my eye, and that did work pretty nicely to kind of smooth everything out in a very nice even layer. Now I'm gonna go in with a little bit of loose powder for the rest of my face. This is the Hourglass powder, and I'm just gonna use a different corner. And I don't wanna bake with this, maybe a little bit right here, just because I get pretty bad creasing right there. And then I'll just take the excess and kind of blend over everything. Now, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I don't always use a powder puff to set my face, but I will say, especially if you have oily skin, this does lock in your makeup. When I would have oily skin and I would want long wearing makeup, which was every single day, I would use a powder puff to really press in the powder, and I did notice a major difference in the longevity of my makeup. I mean, it did mattify my makeup a little bit, which again, I was oily, so I liked that, but it just overall really locked things down and I really liked it. So my thoughts going into this video was, if anything, this will be nice to set my face with powder and set my under eyes with powder. and I can just use it in place of this because it does have the convenient like corners that I was talking about. It would be nice, however, if it did also work for cream products. For example, it at least worked for like a cream bronzer, which was really nice. So at this moment, if I just use this product for cream bronzer and powder, I usually use my beauty blender to apply the powder under my eyes. Then I wipe it away with a specific brush. Then I use another brush, so we're up to 3 tools now to set my entire face. And then I use another brush to use for my cream bronzer or cream contour. So that being said, that would eliminate the need for 3 different brushes, and I could just use this. I don't know at this point if I'm going to want to continue using this for foundation, for concealer, but it did ultimately work. And like I said, at the very least, I can probably get my money's worth if I use it for those other things. Okay, since we're here and I'm feeling a little bit saucy, let's try out this product with a powder bronzer. This is so out of my comfort zone, I can't even tell you, but I'm gonna try it anyways because we're here, like I said. I'm gonna be using one of my favorite bronzers of all time from Hourglass. This is the Luminous Bronze Light, which is a really nice shade for warmth if you're fair to light skin. And I'm just, I guess, going to bend it. Again, I'm still on the powder side. I'm gonna pick some of this up. That's what it looks like. And I'm just gonna pat it on. I kind of feel like it's looking patchy. I don't know if I love that. Yeah, it looks a little bit patchy right here. It's not horrific, but it does look not as blended as when I use like a brush like this. So because of that, I'm not going to use the Blendiful for blush either because I can assume it's going to be the same effect. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do the blush. In fact, I'm just gonna go ahead and finish my makeup and then I'll be right back with my final thoughts. All right, guys, so makeup is done and I do like the finished product. I have absolutely no complaints. I feel a little bit torn about this product, and this is a first impression that I don't really feel like I can give a thumbs up or a thumbs down on. A lot of first impressions, especially with like a foundation or something like that, I pretty much know whether I like it and whether I would recommend it. However, this is kind of a tough one. Like I said, my concerns are that I did have to work with the product or the tool a lot more than I would like to. With my beauty blender, it's pretty foolproof for me. I apply my foundation, I apply my concealer, I apply powders with it, and it works great every time. This, I did feel like was maybe a tiny bit of a learning curve as far as I could not use as much foundation as I typically would, which can be a good thing, but I just didn't like that I had to work at it harder than I typically would. I think that I got that point across by now. I do want to show you guys how I'm going to clean this though, and hopefully the cleaning process is as easy as the Beauty Blender. As far as the question goes, is this better than the Beauty Blender? I'm not very convinced, I have to say. Now, this is $2 cheaper than the Beauty Blender. It does come with both, although I don't think I'm gonna use that probably at all. Not to say that you watching wouldn't use it, but I almost wish that this was a couple dollars cheaper and it didn't come with the mini, or the mini was an option that you could have in the package as well. You wouldn't have to have it, because if that just goes to waste, I'd rather spend less money and just buy this. Like I said, this is $18. The Beauty Blender is $20. As far as replacing them goes, you probably have to replace them the same amount of times. So you would, regardless, save money buying this instead. However, I just don't know that it is better than the Beauty Blender. I still am a little bit hesitant to give this up. I just think that I might like this a little bit more at this stage. You guys, please subscribe to this channel if you want to see updates, because I will include this in a like monthly favorites video, or I will include it in some video where I let you know, guys, I ended up not liking this, or this is how I use it, or things like that. Also follow me on Instagram, because sometimes I do mini reviews over there about makeup and tools and things like that. It's at nat_fabulous. Hey guys, I'm filming this on my iPhone, hopefully you don't mind, but I wanted to pop on here. It is the next day from filming my original video that you guys have been watching, and I did use the Tati Beauty Blendiful again. I used it for foundation, concealer, and powder under my eyes, and powder all over my face. I did not do cream bronzer today, but the main thing that I wanted to do was see how, again, this works with foundation and concealer. I have pretty much decided at this point that I do not like this for foundation. It actually worked pretty well with my concealer today. I didn't have any issues. However, my foundation, I just can't get past the feeling that it doesn't press things into my skin as easily and as well as a dampened beauty blender does. Like when I look kind of up close to my forehead, and I don't know if you guys can tell, of course I don't have perfect skin, so I'm not expecting absolute perfection, but I know how it typically looks, and especially right here, it just looks like the foundation is sitting on top of my skin at least a little bit more than when I use a dampened beauty blender. Now, does my full, overall look pretty smooth, look pretty blended, look, good? Yes, like I'm happy. I'm not like removing my makeup today or anything like that. Like I'm happy, I'm gonna go do my thing. But I can't ignore the fact that when I'm putting my foundation on with this tool, most of the time I'm thinking like, yeah, I don't like this. Yeah, this is not for me. Yeah, I want my beauty blender. I just have to admit that. Like I said, my concealer went on today pretty evenly, pretty smooth. Most of my foundation went on pretty easily, pretty smooth. It just did take a little bit longer. And I do notice that especially on like this area, for some reason, it just doesn't seem to sink into my skin. Like I had to do that like really gentle patting motion in order to get even coverage. And I just don't really have that issue when I'm using a beauty blender. So why then would I use this for those cream products? I wouldn't. The other thing I was thinking about is I was talking in the beginning of this video about how not having to wet this is pretty convenient. The thing is, whether I wash and wet my beauty blender at the beginning of my application of makeup, or if I wash and wet this at the end of my application of makeup, there's no difference. So the fact that I don't have to get this wet or wash this before makeup application doesn't really save me any time in the long run if I inevitably have to now go wash this and wet this. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing. So anyways, those are my thoughts. I definitely will use this for powder application, especially under my eyes. I will probably use it also for setting the rest of my face. And in a pinch, I do like that I can use this for cream bronzer as well. As you saw, it did apply it pretty evenly and pretty smoothly. So I don't think this is like a piece of product. Like you should never ever buy this and it's just the worst and it's bad quality and oh my god, like I'm not saying that. I'm just saying for me personally, you're not really gonna see me using this for my liquid foundation, cream foundation, or concealer probably ever again. Okay, so back to the video. Let's go ahead and get into washing this product and see how that goes. Okay, so for washing my beauty blenders, I always use just this stupid bar of soap. So that's what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to clean it, like I said, as if this is my beauty blender or a brush, and we'll just see how it goes. Okay, so I just finished washing it, and as you may be able to see, there is still some discoloration in the fibers here on one of these corners, and actually on this corner as well. This is the side that I used liquids on. The powder side is pretty darn clean. I don't see any residue at all. So that's good, but I still see a little bit. This is not perfectly clean. I still think it's probably sanitized enough to use again tomorrow, but it did take a little bit longer to clean. Like, I had to scrub at this multiple times versus the Beauty Blender. I can kind of just like scrub twice on the bar of soap, wring it out, rub it around, and it's done. This took a little bit more like scrubbing. Like, you saw me kind of using my nails to try to get into the fibers. I mean, it was fine. I'm not trying to say that this was like awful, but it was a little bit harder to clean, or it took a little bit longer to clean, I should say, than the Beauty Blender. And with that, I'm just gonna finish this video. Hopefully you guys got something out of it. I hate that it wasn't like a definitive, yes guys, I love this, or no guys, this sucks. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Have you guys tried this? And if so, what do you think about it? Did you see a way that I could have used it differently or made it any better? I am definitely going to continue to use this and see how I feel. Right now, I am leaning towards saying it's not worth it and that I'd rather just buy a beauty blender or a beauty sponge. Keep in mind, if you want a beauty sponge, you don't have to buy a beauty blender. I do like the beauty blender the best, but it is like the most expensive sponge on the market, and you can buy less expensive ones out there. A lot of people like the e.l.f. one, the L'Oreal one, the Real Techniques one. These are all drugstore products and drugstore prices. Anyways, there are other alternatives out there that are not $20 or not even $18. So you can get the job done with less money than this. That being said, it could be really good for at least powders and at least my cream bronzer, like I was mentioning, which at least for me, since I already bought it, makes it not a complete waste of money. But anyways, I do want to hear all your thoughts down below. If you liked the video, definitely don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you like me, then please subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. I've been uploading every week, and I do hope to see you in my next one. Okay, bye.